Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday Night Live. We are talking about UFOs, UAPs, and aliens tonight. Hello, everybody here on TikTok as well. So, as we all know, there's been a ton of drone and UAP sightings all over the country, but specifically a very high amount in Jersey. Let me show you guys some of the pictures. So, here we are. There's a ridiculous amount of ads on the screen. So mysterious drones are changing time on clocks in New Jersey as locals fear they're being targeted by UFOs. So here's an image. Here's an image. This is a map of where the UFOs and UAPs are being seen. Yeah, they spoofed the GPS signal. The clock will reacquire the real GPS signal with the correct time. Lots of interesting stuff here. Here's a quick little clip with, again, tons of ads. I mean, this is the media.
The FAA has placed a temporary restriction on drone flights over Picatinny Arsenal and over Trump National Golf Course in Bedminster. When these drones were first spotted 2 weeks ago, the Morris County Prosecutor's Office said that they posed no known threat. Wait, it's in the night sky.
It's kind of unsettling. They're not up for 15 minutes, they're up for hours. Some are very big, probably size of a car.
Mike Walsh says he's seen hundreds of them over the past 2 weeks from his Randolph backyard and has the video to prove it.
They kind of go slow, they come towards you, and they'll change.
Town police sent an alert to residents Sunday saying they are aware of drone activity and that if the drone figure out what's going on, but at the moment doesn't have enough information to share.
A lot of people want to know what's going on. I think more people are coming around to that. Oh, this is going on. And
okay, so let's pull that down. Hi, everybody. Hello. Yes, I'm also on YouTube here. So, okay. So as you guys know, I'm from Jersey. That's where my abduction experience happened. Happened in New Jersey. Now it's a little difficult because there's such an influx of information around these drones, UFOs, UAPs in New Jersey that actually it's hard to find some of the older information. But until recently, until about the last 10 years, but before 10 years ago, New Jersey was actually the UFO sighting capital of the country. And I know that sounds crazy. People think it's going to be around Area 51 or around these major air bases like in New Mexico, in Nevada. But actually, it is in New Jersey where there was over 700 recorded sightings. And those were the ones that were uh, recorded to officials, to police, to things like that. Because obviously there's always sightings happening and they're not reported. So that was something that has been happening ever since I was a child. The UFOs were a lot. So you guys know my UFO story. You know, I'm not going to get fully into it now, but I do want to say there's someone who wrote me an email after my interview with Linda Moulton Howe. So as you guys know, Linda dug into my story of my abduction story from when I was a child, which happened in Jersey City, New Jersey in 1993. I believe that it happened at the end of June into the beginning of July. I received an email a few months ago that someone who grew up only a few blocks from there and was a bit older than me. I was 5 at the time. He was a preteen, maybe around 12 or so. I'm not going to pull up the exact email because he didn't give me like permission to share it. So I don't want to give all of the details of his experience, but he said, I needed to reach out to you after I saw Linda Moulton Howe's video because the area that you described is where I grew up. And he, 1993, same summer, where he believes it was the end of June, early July, had an abduction experience. Only, so he gave me the exact street where he was, and it was about 7 blocks away from where my experience happened. And so there's a reservoir there. Now the reservoir has been cleaned up and now you could go there. But like before, kids would like climb over and like cut through there or like hang out and smoke weed in there and stuff. but it was not like really open to the public, this reservoir. Now it is. And that's in Jersey City in the Heights. And he cut through that reservoir because basically Pershing Field Park, he needed to get home. Instead of going around the whole park, he would cut through the reservoir. And it was around the same time of night, near late 10 to 11 p.m. He cut through, and when he cut through, he saw something large and silver in there, and he said he was just captivated by it. And then he had a gap of missing time, and he has memories of abductions. He has a memory of being on the craft, which is so crazy because obviously, you know, I have the accounts of all of my family members from that night, but this guy said that he actually got like diagnosed with something after that because people did not believe his story. He tried to talk about it, and he actually still has a lot of trauma around sharing the story because he received so much like ridicule and a diagnosis, all of this stuff. And he said that when he heard me talking about describing the same type of craft, oh my God, TikTok, oh my God, TikTok already gave me the violation restriction. I can't, just, ugh. So, you know, part of me wants TikTok to get banned. You know, if you guys don't follow me over on Instagram, part of me wants it. Part of me wants it. I don't think they will. I think they just love to dangle the TikTok thing in front of people. Like, so this is the thing too with the TikTok thing. Before I get off on a rant, okay, is, you know, okay, so they have this whole thing about the privacy with TikTok, right? And what people don't realize is that 12% share of TikTok is owned by a company named Oracle. Oracle is, yes, a CIA contractor, and they're the ones who have the data of all the US users of TikTok on American soil. So before the last hearing, TikTok made the agreement that they would keep all user data for all US citizens on US soil. And Oracle is the company that hosts and manages that, and in return has 12% of the company. Now, X/Twitter has a completely different narrative. It has the narrative of free speech and blah, blah, blah. And also, what they don't let you know is that Elon, one of the investors that helped Elon to buy X, is the guy who owns Oracle. So Oracle is behind both of these apps. So they want to call one like a China communism app, and then the other one's a free speech app, but it's the same company that is behind both of them, that has a share in both of them, that is doing data stuff for both of them. So, like, come on. Anyway, let me get off my TikTok rant now. That was just really early. I barely got 5 minutes into my live before they started giving me the violations this time. Anyway, okay, a lot of people are asking. So here in the comments, so you guys obviously saw my hypnosis with Sarah Brexman Cosme. It's on my YouTube. If you guys on TikTok haven't watched it, part 1 is on my YouTube. Part 2 is on Sarah's. I have them both linked on JK Ultra YouTube page. So they're both up there, even though they're on different accounts. So a lot of people are asking about this. Tanya's asking, she needs to know the truth about the stealing the souls. If her soul was stolen, what does she do? People are asking over here. Please talk about them stealing souls during abductions. You were abducted a few years ago. They aren't stealing souls. Don't let anyone fool you into thinking your soul can be stolen from you. Okay, let's talk about it. So it's a bit of an oversimplification of what was said. I just want to clarify. So let me actually see if I can pull up that part of the session so that everybody's on the same page and knows what we're talking about. Okay, so I'm going to pull it up. If you guys are watching on TikTok and you want to see the clip, come over to YouTube. It should be around this point.
They bring those forward. They don't want the divisiveness because they would lose. Wow. Well, are there any misconceptions about the grades that they wish to clarify? Yeah. To stop looking at us through your lens. We are not like you. We even in the future, when some humans integrate with us, we will never be like you are right now. It is not possible for us. So the way that a human can have compassion for an animal and understand that an animal is different than them. When an animal kills for food in the wild, they don't believe that that animal is evil. But
Oh, Lord.
Why don't you own an apartment?
Okay. You know, can't get through without the ads. Even watching my own videos. Even watching my own videos on, on YouTube. All right, guys. Here we go. Skip this.
us. And they have to have that same perspective that we're simply a different species and we make different choices. We have different motivations, and it is not negative. It's just different.
Can we trust you?
Trust is something that is very difficult for us to fully understand because we don't. Trust is a feeling, and it is something that happens in the universe. You know, trusting in divine order, trusting in God, trusting in faith. We don't do that. We take it into our own hands and we control the outcome. So it is difficult for us to advise on trust.
Do you say what you mean?
We say what needs to be said in order to be received. So that might sound deceptive from your perspective.
And people call you forward to work with you directly?
Yes, we advise them to if they would like to. We're very efficient. We can, however, we are very efficient. We will bring forth those things maybe easier or quicker than some other entities that people call upon, such as deities and things. We are much more efficient. But like we said, we're always even. So we also rotate the even that we want, which is nothing we mostly care about anyway. It's mostly we want information, we want experimentation, and some people we want them to share information. But that is more rare. So you would not know what we were taking anyway most of the time.
What would it be? What would you take?
Specimens, DNA, things from the body usually. Sometimes we use the energy of the soul.
How do you do that?
It's very powerful energy source. It's very effective. So sometimes we will harvest energy from the soul.
Does it affect the person whose soul you harvested?
It's similar exchange to many other beings. You know, they do. If somebody works with an angel or a entity, they also harvest some energy from them as well. So it is similar to others. Does it affect them? Yeah, it does take some light source from them, but never enough. We would never take enough to harm or deplete them because we like to keep it very. We like to keep it clean slate.
What would you give in return? Would it be equal to what you took?
If they were asking for something, then we could bring that forward or help them, and also occasionally medical assistance with.
Okay. Hi, Zark. Thank you. The hard part about disclosure is that some of the phenomenon is physical, most of it is non-physical or spiritual, and some misinformation and disinformation. It's a spectrum of the phenomena. It's very true. Okay. So I wanted to play that part because this topic coming up was a little disturbing, even for myself, but not completely shocking, because I did always feel that this was happening with deities when people are working with magic and they're calling forth, say, like, I'm going to work with Lilith, I'm going to work with Aphrodite, I'm going to work with this being or that being. So I did always feel that there was a part of the life source that was being exchanged with that being. But I was not specifically aware of it happening with the Greys. Now, what they say, now that's just a clip. So what they say in the longer part of that is that basically there's different things that they exchange for. It's not always for the soul. It's not always for the life force. It is also other things as well. So like, for example, one of the things that they said that they exchange with me personally, if you watch, they talk about my personal exchange with the Greys. And they say that part of my exchange with them is about teaching people about them. So there is other things. Sometimes it's DNA that they're taking. Sometimes it's eggs that they're taking. Sometimes it's physical stuff. So it said also why it wants to take the DNA is because a lot of people think it's because the human DNA is so valuable. Maybe that's part of it. But what they're saying is that also human DNA has an infancy of other species. So they say reptilian and Anunnaki DNA and all of these other species of alien DNA are also residing within human DNA. So a lot of times they're taking our DNA to get old versions of Anunnaki DNA and old versions of reptilian DNA, which is a really interesting thing because it's like, it's not always to get stuff around humans. It's also stuff to get that is in our body that we're not using. Energy exchange, no stealing. Grays don't have emotions. They don't understand fear. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so it's not stealing the soul. It's taking a little part of the life force. And exactly like Danger Dandelion said, your soul cannot be stolen. Your soul cannot be sold. There's nowhere for it to go. So it's not like your soul could be stolen from you. What it is there's an exchange of energy, which is what's happening anytime that people are doing any type of magic. Like, what do you think? Like people that are working with, you know, uh, all of these other beings, like, in paganism, in this and that, all of the different people that are doing magic that are working with beings. Well, what do you think those beings are taking? They also want a little bit of juice. They want a little bit of that God juice that is inside of us, a little bit of that source energy. So it is something that is happening. And what it also says when you listen to it is it says it's the same as any being. Like they're all doing it. You believe they took some of your soul energy. Okay, so you said you're a witch, you're on the right track. Yeah, that's the thing, is that it basically is like part of it. And that's why you have to make sure that it is like, now, one thing that they say with the grays in this is that the grays say they're more even than other species. So like, because the grays, another thing, I highly suggest you listen to it. It starts a little slow, which is normal with the QHHT. It does start slow as you're working to like, as you're getting deeper. So like some of the early questions that we ask in that QHHT session is, what are the aliens really in the water? Are the UFOs really in the water? And so it said kind of a little bit yes and no, is that what's in the water is interdimensional beings. And that these interdimensional beings aren't actually living in the water. It's almost like a portal to another aspect, another realm. And then Sarah asks, well, what is the difference between an extraterrestrial and an interdimensional? And it said, well, all extraterrestrials are also interdimensional. However, there's interdimensionals that are native to the Earth sphere. So they're kind of saying like Earth sphere, which is why that it's weird. I would never really use the word Earth sphere. Like it kind of sounds a little bit off to me, but that's what comes up in the hypnosis a lot. And you hear it in a lot of channeling. They'll say Earth sphere instead of like, maybe just like, when they're talking, it's interesting, the Earth sphere. So, sometimes we see these pictures in like Vedic things where it'll be like planes. It'll be like 7 different planes inside of this sphere. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find that. Let's see. Okay, yeah, nice. Okay, so let me show you guys this. So, hold on. Okay, why is that coming up? It's the wrong thing. Okay, here we go. Okay, so you see this, like that I'm showing you guys, like you see this in like this Vedic imagery, how it's like, and I understand why this is why people say the earth is flat. As you guys know, I'm not a believer of the earth being flat. Like, because I think that that's an oversimplification of what's happening. Thank you. So, but you see this, like these different lines, these different levels. Okay, let me take that down. Where did my chat go? Oh my God, where did my chat go? Oh, here we go. Sorry, I lost it. Okay. Right, Natasha, 101 people here, 108 people here now, and only 18 likes. You're not a flat earther, but you went down the rabbit hole of Earth inside a dome construct that we live in the hemisphere of it, and things live below the hemisphere, which makes our map look flat. Yeah. So it's wild that it's the grays talking through you while you're in hypnosis. Like it wasn't you or your highest self. Were you aware of it when it was happening? Yes. So before I did that hypnosis session, the night before, so whenever you do a hypnosis session, it's always good when you go to bed the night before to like talk to your higher self and say like, please come through clearly tomorrow. Thank you for helping me tomorrow. And so what I said, I was like, if any beings that we are questioning want to come through and speak directly, then do that. Okay. And they felt different. So, like, I love when the grays come through because I'm very close to the grays. I find them very endearing. Um, the Pleiadian energy was a little bit more distant. Like, they did talk through me a little bit, but I didn't feel that much. The Arcturian was very nice. It was very, like, gentle. Um, the angel energy came through. And so you'll see in part 1, we're just talking with the grays. If you go to part 2 on Sarah's page, we call in Pleiadians, we call in Arcturians. Now, she doesn't specifically call them in because I had already consented before with my higher self to bring whoever in needs to speak. So you'll hear sometimes I'm saying they, and then sometimes it turns into we. And when it turns into we, it does shift a little bit and the energy shifts. Now, in the next part that is coming up, which will be on my page, we ask about Mother Aya. And when Mother Aya's energy came in, that was my favorite because it's such a like playful, wise, kind of sassy energy. So it did feel different, each one coming through. They're learning and seeking to integrate just as we humans are learning and doing the same. That's true. Okay, so some of the things, yeah, I noticed some of the wording switch and vocal changes. Yeah. You said Zeta Reticuli or Zeta. I'm not sure. So there's a lot of debate, about where these grays that are mixing with humans are from. Now, they could also be from Orion as well. They could be from many different places because there's a lot of different types of grays. How can we trust what comes through under hypnosis? Energies can channel through people. Yeah, you got to use your discernment of what resonates and what doesn't. For me, I trust it because I could feel their energies and, I asked my higher self to facilitate it. But anything that you're listening, I mean, when it comes through channeling, you have to always use your discernment and take what resonates and leave what doesn't, like I'm not personally the biggest fan of Bashar, like I like a lot of the information that comes through with Bashar, but I mean, a lot of channelers, I love the old channelers a lot, and there's some new channelers that are coming up, but there's a lot of big channelers that I feel like kind of, maybe have kind of lost their way a little bit. So you kind of got to take kind of got to take what resonates and leave what doesn't, because anyone who's channeling could eventually over time, their information could change. It could go through more of a filter. There could be different energies. So it is just really about discernment. Okay, so question for the life force exchange. How does that go? How so? What are the consequences? What is it exactly compared to the soul? So my understanding of it is that it's a bit of the life force. So the soul is a bit of the life force, and it doesn't say that they're stealing it or taking it. They use the word harvesting. So that means that they're using a little bit of it as an energy source. And they said that a very small amount of the soul energy is very powerful, and a lot can be done with that. Obviously, we know that. Look at our soul inside of our body. Look at what it does to a body, and then look at what it does when it leaves the body. Like, it is, when a soul is in the body, it takes over and does so much magic, right? There's so much that's happening when a soul is in the body. When a soul leaves the body, we see that level of energy force. As a Roman Catholic, you've witnessed evil entities channel and deceive people. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times though, that's people's own stuff. You know, a lot of times it's people's own demons. Like, an outside force coming in is not going to come in without your consent. You know, it's not like anyone who's possessed, it's most likely a part of themselves. Like, it's a part of themselves that is usually very wounded, you know, and messed up. Harvesting life forage, literally cherry picking. Yeah, like, that's a thing. Like, we harvest crops. Is that evil? You know, we harvest crops and we use that for an energy source. Is that evil? That's one of the things that it says in the hypnosis, is that the grays are like, humans are willing to look at these different species on their own planet and be able to see that there's a difference. Like, a cheetah can kill an antelope, you know, for an energy source because it needs to survive. So we don't see that as evil. We don't see it as evil that we, you know, grow crops and even damage the earth in the process, because we need that as an energy source. Yeah, it's all about consent in the supernatural world. There are rules in the universe. Yeah, I think, you know, free will is the number one thing. You believe hope harvesting happens to people around elections, religion, maybe something different than the Greys are doing. Yeah, that's true as well. It is, I think, something different. There's a lot of different harvesting that's happening. Wow, but they don't already have the exact same life force. It sounds like they're almost beyond that. That they're at the Godhead level of observing the construct. So they're not at that level. So that's one of the things that it talks about in the hypnosis, which is why you should watch it fully, because what it talks about is that the Greys are not a part of the same ascension process that we are. So in order for our ascension to happen, we need to experience, right? We need to come to here or possibly other planets, and we experience love. You know, here we experience hate, we experience war, we experience suffering, we experience a lot of messed up stuff coming to Earth. And that is part of the soul's ascension. That is part of the learning. That is part of the karma. What I do unto you now karmically plays out for me with a law of cause and effect, which is what karma is, plays out in another way. But it says that the Greys are not partaking in this same process because they cancel out karma instantly. So if the Greys are going to help you with something, they're going to take something from you as well. So it'll be something that they find to be equal because they cancel out karma. So that's what it says in the when you listen to the hypnosis, because it's like canceling out. It's always back to zero. So say you ask the Greys to help you with something, they're like, okay, well, now I'm going to take this from you for you to help me equally. And now we're even. And it will always cancel out the karma right away, instantly. It's that instant clearing to zero. So this process that we learn through of the soul ascension process is feeling based, emotion based, and they've removed that aspect of themselves. They're not working from feelings and emotions. So they're not having the same experience that is needed for ascension. love, trust, all of these things, faith, those things are part of the ascension process and they don't do it. So they cancel it out back to zero. So this is why they're so even Steven about everything, that they're like, oh, okay, well, we want to take some eggs from you. So how about, like, one of the things it talks about in that hypnosis is one of the things that they've done with me. That's my rice cooker. So that's one of the things, ETs are an amplification of what you are. It took a while for you to attract good ETs. Yeah. I mean, everything is a mirror, right? That even happens in real life. Say someone who is very negative, they attract a lot of negative situations. They'll go outside, people are assholes at the supermarket. They go outside, everybody's a jerk in traffic. They go, so this is like the mirroring that happens everywhere. So it happens at many different levels. Also, if someone is like severely depressed or severely scared or something like that, they might experience sometimes scary entities or things like that because they're vibrating at that level and it's getting mirrored back to them. So it does make sense that it's mirroring in everywhere. Do ascended masters have to float up into the sky like Jesus did? I don't know what that means, really. I don't know about Jesus floating up into the sky. And also, no, ascended masters, I think it happens over several lifetimes that they ascend. That is one of the things we ask about. I think that's going to be in part 4 of the hypnosis, is what are these beings in Egypt? Like, were they aliens? Were they what? Like, what are these Egyptian beings? What were they? So pretty interesting is going to be something connected to that. What is the process of consent with the Greys? Is there an agreement in advance or do they access? Okay. So there is consent most of the time. So usually there will be an agreement before incarnating. So for me, for example, I believe that the agreement happened before I was born. There's also people who have agreements that happen in the future. So a Grey could go into a future life and ask for consent from the past. So let's say a Grey contacts you and says, hey, can I go back and abduct you in your past life in the 1800s? And I'm going to do this, and this will be the exchange. And then, say you're now in 2024 and you're like, yeah, sure, go abduct me in the 1700s. What do I give a shit? So that's another form of consent. There's also the higher self doing the consent. So one of the things that Sarah asks in that is, if somebody wants to work with the Greys, does their higher self need to consent, or does their, lower self, their human self, have to? And it said either can. Now, one of the things I just want to remind you guys what it says, watch the hypnosis before you start doing deals with the Greys, okay? It said these contracts are very long. These are not willy-nilly, here you go. These are long contracts. They come for their payment worse than the IRS, okay? So, like, the way the IRS is going to come after for their side of the payment, the Greys are coming. They're taking you and they're getting those eggs. They're getting what they want. So the other thing is to be mindful of, that it mentions, is that when you're doing work with the Greys, just be aware that they're not on the same ascension path. So if you decide to, so there's this like theory that Greys are us in the future. We asked that under the hypnosis and it says, yes and no, because it's not humanity are Greys in the future. There's individual humans who have chosen to live as a Grey in the future. So when they say Greys are us in the future, that's not fully true. There's some people, like say someone like a Bashar, who says that's his future life. Like maybe Bashar in the future has agreed to be a Grey in a future life, but humanity as a species, as a collective, are not Greys in the future. Many beings of the same caliber had ascended prior to the incarnation of Jesus, and many have ascended since. Although you love Yeshua too, we are going to ascending to Christ consciousness. Can you or can you not get out of contracts? I think you have to pay. Now, I don't know because we didn't get like, I would love to go under again and ask those questions. I'm actually going to be putting my friend under, who she's an abductee. She has a long history with the Greys as well. We're going to put her under in QHHT, and we're going to go deeper into how do you do these contracts if you want to? How do you work with them? So let me write that down. Can you get out of the contract? Do you guys have other questions for the Greys, by the way? Can you get out of the contract? Okay. Let's see. You would offer yourself to be a future or a current Grey? Well, but this is the thing, is that it said that if you watch the hypnosis, it says just be mindful because it's not very fulfilling. It's interesting because it's a very, very, very high intellect. So it's a very high intellect. So there's a lot of cool things about their experience. However, it says that these lasts very long. If you decide to live as a Grey in your future life, this is a very long contract because they don't die naturally. You know, so like, and once you're in an incarnation, you are in that incarnation, just like now we are truly human. So like we are truly in the human incarnation and we make decisions as a human. We have perception as a human. As much as we might be starseeds or this or that, we are still human first. So the same thing for the Greys. If you're in that Grey body and living that Grey existence, you're going to be thinking and feeling and acting like a Grey. And they don't die naturally. They choose to end. So they could live 400, 500, 600 years. So it might not be the best part for the ascension of your soul. Do Greys want to learn how to have emotions? Okay. Now, one of the things I talked about in that hypnosis, when am I going to do that with my friend? After I come back from the cruise. And then I'm not 100% sure that we're going to share the recording. She says she's comfortable with sharing the recording, but we're going to do the hypnosis and then I'm going to have her decide after because sometimes things come up, so I don't want her to feel like it's mandatory that it will be posted. If not, I'll just relay the information. She'll probably be comfortable with it being posted, but I told her like, let's do what we need to do and get information and then go from there. You want to live forever. We humans are just starting our journey. We need more time to evolve our souls to be ready. That's true. Can you get a renewal clause in that contract for renegotiation? Maybe. Let's see. Can you get out of it? Can you renew it? Can you change it? Okay. Free will doesn't necessarily apply with higher dimensions. Yeah, that's one of the things that's interesting is I do believe we live in a free will universe. However, if you're a collective and you're part of a collective mind, then free will is different, right? If we live here as a human, free will is that individual. If you're part of a higher dimension, might be more of a collective. And free will might be different if you're a collective, right? Because as a human's free will, if I wanted to use my free will to, not that I would, but say someone wanted to use their free will to take out a CEO of a healthcare company, then they can use their free will to do that. If you're in a part of a higher dimension, you are also intertwined with that soul more consciously. So you might not use your free will to do something like that. Hi, Roots. What is the relationship with aliens and the other side? Okay. So if it's more difficult to get out of a Grey contract than get out of a timeshare, no thanks. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. So one of the things that comes up in my hypnosis, I hate when I like randomly turn orange in like halfway through the through this Tuesday Night Live. I'll like randomly turn orange. You see what happened to me? Can I? So one of the things that comes up is in that hypnosis, it says that I am not a gray soul, but I had a contract of working with the grays. So I had been working with them for a long time before this lifetime. And what it said was that I have like, so this is where the blue beings come up. This is where you guys need to watch part 2 on Sarah's page, because a lot of times these blue beings are showing up. You're just so illuminated. Thank you, Zark. Why do they need consent? Is it just to prevent karma? They don't do stuff without consent and balance the karma. Well, they probably do stuff without consent as well and cancel out the karma. That's one of the things when we ask and if you watch part 2, Sarah asks the Pleiadians about the grays. Shifting into my orange aura, right? So one of the things is the blue beings, okay? That's why you got to watch part 2. So these blue beings pop up for people a lot in type of hypnosis, in meditation. So Sarah is Sarah Brexman Cosme. So she's the world's most known QHHT practitioner since Dolores has passed. She works with Dolores Cannon's family. She is like the top person who is continuing that work. And so if you go over to my YouTube, she put me under hypnosis and we asked all of these questions. Like those 4 sessions, there's 2 up already, is like a whole Dolores Cannon video. Where can you watch these videos? On my YouTube, JK Ultra. You had a gray that watched you sleep for 2 months when you were 13. Oh, interesting. You got a lot of blue rays in your galactic astro chart. Interesting. You feel a connection with the blues or the Nordics. When is part 3? Part 3 is going to be next Tuesday for the Tuesday Night Live, because I'm going to be on the cruise. So I'm going to do that as the Tuesday Night Live will be part 3. So you guys are all going to watch part 3 whether you like it or not. No, I'm joking. But no, it'll be here at this time because I am not going to have enough service on the cruise to stream. So, okay. So also, okay, so the blue beings. So the blue beings come up and the blue beings work on the other side. So basically they say that these blue beings, there is these blue beings that are Arcturians and different beings. There's different types of blue beings, but these one type of blue beings that always come up that are like not really alien. They're kind of like they're just like luminous light beings, and they basically, it says it's similar to working with the Akashic records. Now they don't specifically work with the Akashic records, but they work in that realm of life selection, soul purpose, soul contracts. Kind of reminds me of the movie Soul, right? That cartoon, the Pixar movie or Disney movie, Soul. They have the Terrys and the Jerrys, which when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that's me. The Terrys and the Jerrys. That's what I feel like I am on the other side. So those beings, when I've done hypnosis the first time, when I've done the astral projection, when I've done different healing work, these blue beings come up. So I wanted to know, what are these blue beings? And it says they show up around soul contracts, around life purpose, around life selection, around karma, around contract negotiation of the soul. And so they help hold the other side together. So like as humans, our consciousness helps hold this realm together, right? Because we're all agreeing that this is the rules of the world. And our consciousness holds the world together, whereas sometimes you'll see channeled messages from certain beings. Like there was like these in my alien series, they talked about Andromeda. Andromedans said that one of the things that humans don't kind of take for granted is that their consciousness is so powerful that it actually holds things together after they leave. So they say like Andromedans, for example, like they when they leave their home ceases to exist. But because humans' consciousness is so powerful in the physical realm that we leave our home is still there. That's how powerful our consciousness is. Whereas other beings, it only materializes what's in front of them and then it dissipates and another thing materializes and they stay in this kind of same place. So the way that our consciousness holds this reality together, there's beings on the other side that their consciousness holds the other side together. And by other side, I mean kind of the realm of where souls are when we're not incarnated, but we're still in the incarnation process. So kind of like, when these stories of like people dying and then being greeted by loved ones and then being in this other side, like the stuff that's in Journey of Souls, that realm is held together by beings. And so those blue beings are a part of those assistants and archivists and keepers on the other side. And that's why they come forward. So the reason I go to say that is because my connection is more to those beings and to that realm. However, it said I was like a teacher in that realm. So how the blue beings are part of the contracts and stuff, it said if you listen to the hypnosis, and this also came up in someone else's hypnosis where I was the facilitator, they said the same thing, that I'm a teacher on the other side and they're a teacher on the other side as well. So when they said that in the hypnosis, I immediately like resonated with it. And then it came up again in this hypnosis saying that me being a teacher on the other side of like soul stuff. So kind of like in between lives teacher, kind of like the stuff that you read about in Journey of Souls. But then I got into a contract with the Greys to be a teacher as part of the hybrid school. So this is what talks about in parts 1 and 2 of the hypnosis, that I became a teacher for the Greys for the hybrid school and then went into one of the children, which is how the soul exchange happened when I was oh, thank you, Frida. Perceive me as a teacher. Oh God. What is this? Like you're rolling your eyes? Oh, okay. Then don't. Like, what do I give a shit what you perceive me as? Mr. High Sciences Society. Pompous. Okay. So ask them what's going on with the spraying. Maybe we'll see if we can get an answer for it. I'll write it down. Yeah. It's always the people with like the super pompous names that are the most triggered by people being confident saying something. But anyway, let me see what some of the things are here too. So then that's how it says that I became connected to the Greys, was a contract a long time ago. Which then, oh, let me see. I'm sorry, I missed the super chat. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Oh, hi, Shauna. Your mom had a UFO encounter that seemed to be a few minutes. Am I understanding correctly? The encounter could have been much longer than they remember. Yes. So this compressed time is a big thing that comes up with abductions, UFOs, stuff like that. So I was actually talking to a psychic the other day and we were talking about the UFO stuff. We were talking about the compressed time. And she said, whoa, you just helped me to understand how information comes through. So she's a medium. And so the mediums, and it makes sense the way she was describing it, because I was talking about compressed time as far as abductions and UFOs as being a very common experience. She's like, oh my God, that's what happens when I'm doing mediumship and a loved one comes in. They show me like a condensed version of their memory, the connection to the person, how they died, how they felt, how they crossed over. She said, wow, that is the compressed time. I saw her as a teacher in my QHHT session. She was glowing and had a lot of beings listening to her. Aww. That's what I was talking about, is that it came up in someone's QHHT. Good question, Zark. What is Zark's question? Packaged thought forms. The ETs take years to reveal themselves to you visibly. Their appearance could really scare us. That's true. I even think that a lot of the things, I wonder where this information came from. I don't know if it was from my first hypnosis with Sarah, but like even a lot of these ETs that we see, like maybe Arcturians, Pleiadians, stuff like that, they might not look like what we think they look like. They show themselves as humanoid. However, there's a good chance that they are very scary. Okay. I do know a book that talks about it. I think it's in Bringers of the Dawn. I'm pretty sure Bringers of the Dawn brings it up as well, where it says a lot of these beings, if we were to see what they truly look like, would be terrifying to us because of our perceptions in our world, right? Because we have these snakes and spiders and insects and reptiles and all of these things that humans find scary. So a lot of times these beings would be pretty scary to us. Can you trust a psychic or medium? Your parish priest is an exorcist. I wouldn't say I trust every psychic or medium, but I do trust some. Yeah, I do trust some for sure. Oh my God. All right. Somebody's getting blocked. All right. Goodbye, high society of pompousry. There you go. You can keep talking, but no one's going to see the comments. So sorry about that. Okay. I get it. You're triggered because you wish this was you. But what you should do, instead of taking your time being a little shit in the comments, you should focus on your own society of high sciences and go and build your own platform where people actually want to listen to you. Okay? Use that with your time, friend. And now that you have been silenced here on this channel, yeah. Now I've helped you. Okay? I've helped you because some people don't have self-control. So sometimes they need to be blocked in order to that self-control they couldn't get over themselves of being a little hater in the comments. Yeah. Now they have no choice but to sit with themselves and do the things that they're meant to do in this life. And then you'll see. And then you'll see when you're in the position, then you'll be less of a hater because usually people that do this work are not haters anymore, right? Because they realize how difficult it is to one, put yourself out there, to do the work, to edit, to have all the stuff, to dedicate so much time. Usually people who actually become a content creator themselves, usually aren't a little hater, but it's the people who dream of doing it and don't have the ability to put themselves out there. So he needed that nudge. I know. I know. We're helping him, guys. This was our society of high sciences. The high science of using your time in a better way. Okay. Any info about New Earth? So stuff did come through in part 4 of the hypnosis, which said, I can't even remember what it said at the 4th of it. We did like 2.5 hours of the hypnosis. So we'll have to see what it says in part 4 because I haven't rewatched the whole thing yet. I've been watching it as that's been coming out. Can we ask the Greys for predictions? I mean, I can try. I just don't know if we're going to get predictions because you know, especially with what the Greys said in the hypnosis, Sarah said, "Can we trust you?" And they said like, "We can't advise on trust. We don't operate on trust." They're like, "We take things into our own hands." You almost missed this because you were at your kids' choir. We're subjects to the big star film projector, a beautiful thing. I don't know what that means. Timeline choices make predictions void. Yeah, that's why I don't think that the Greys will give predictions, because they said they don't leave anything to chance, that they manipulate the outcome of everything. So I don't think that they would do that. Brand new to the channel. Oh, hold on. TikTok. Making me verify myself. A brand new to your channel, and you've got to say you're loving it here. Oh, thanks. Welcome. If you're brand new to my channel on TikTok, you should go to the playlists on my profile and watch my series. Just telling you. My series are the best part of my TikTok. Do you think we're still on the highest timeline? I do. I believe we're always on the highest timeline. I really do. I believe that as long as that's what we're consenting to. Now, a lot of people who are super like radicalized by propaganda, I still believe we're on the highest timeline, but I believe that those people are playing with something very dangerous. You know, there's a lot of people saying like, oh, women are losing their rights. Women are going to have no rights. It's going to be Handmaid's Tale, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, not on this timeline that I'm living on. I'm sorry. If you want to create a reality with your conscious mind where women lose rights, then get the hell away from me. I'm not listening to that. Blocked. Sorry. I'm not living in no timeline where women are losing their rights. I'm sorry to you, okay? Because they keep saying this and saying this for dramatic effect. But in reality, they're creating that. So I censor that from my reality because I'm like, oh, no, no, no. No, friend. I don't consent to that. Do you believe the multiverse theory? Oh, of course. Where we are everywhere all at once. Oh yeah, multiverse. For sure. I do believe in the multiverse. There's infinite timelines. So the thing with the infinite timelines is that basically every single decision that you make is a minor timeline adjustment. So the little minute change. So like if I say, let's use the example of the guy that or woman, probably a guy, high society person that was being a troll. I could have allowed them to just keep going. I decided to silence them from this channel entirely so none of their comments will ever show again, but then they can endlessly keep sending them and no one will see them. That was a decision right there, right? Every decision goes in two possible directions. So potentially we're always doing but see, that's such a small, insignificant decision that it just pushes the timeline to one direction slightly. If you make a big decision, like say, I'm quitting this job, that's a much bigger life decision. So you're going to make a bigger shift. So every single decision. So when people say like, are we on the highest timeline? It comes down to your daily choice every single day. It comes down to every single day, every choice. That's like, you guys remember on the election day, I posted Kaylee O'Keefe's channeling of the Pleiadians. And it said this one decision on this one day, sorry to break it to you, whoever you vote for doesn't change the world, okay? It's every single day, every decision. Every time you wake up, the choice that you make, every single time you walk through your life and make a decision, every single decision is what is making the timeline. Great question, Zark. What is Zark's question? When do you think the soul enters the baby? Conception of birth, genuine question. Okay, so this has been talked about many times. I've never done like a video on it because it's such a toxic reaction from everybody, but they ask about it in Journey of Souls. Dolores asks about it in one of her books, I believe. I've seen Ruben Langdon when he interviewed all the channelers. So, he has he has his platform, but then also on Gaia, he had a show where he had these people channeling, and he interviewed them while channeling. Sarah Langdon talked about it. Trying to think of who else. There's at least like 4 to 5 different sources that say the same exact thing in the spiritual realm. Now, one, everyone has their own decision. Oh, convoluted universe. Thank you, Ash. So everyone has their own choice of how they want to perceive any situation and what their morals and their guidelines of their life are for any situation. So if someone feels that it is genuinely, because obviously this comes back to the abortion topic. The reason why people care when the soul comes into the body is because of the abortion topic, right? So everybody has the right to have their own opinion. I don't believe that there's an objective answer for every single person on earth because every situation is different. But what has come through in Dolores, Journey of Souls, Sarah Landon channeled on Ruben Langdon's show, couple of other people that I've seen over the years do channeling all had the exact same answer for it. Maybe Lee Harris was asked about it on an interview once in a channeling. There's a couple of channelers and everybody had the same answer, which is there's not one answer of when the soul enters the body. They say that the soul is entering and leaving the body up until age 7. So the soul can come into the body while it's inside of the baby. The baby is inside of the mom. And they said a lot of times this is when it's kicking. But then a soul is so powerful, so infinite that it's not going to just sit inside of the belly for that time. It's going to be doing other soul. Same way that when we go to sleep, our soul does stuff, right? So like we're sleeping, our soul is doing other things in our sleep that we don't perceive because the soul is so big and so infinite. And so the soul comes into the body whenever is right. So like if there's a difficult pregnancy, it might come in to soothe the mom, or it might choose to be out of the body because it doesn't want to experience that difficult situation. So for sometimes the soul will enter the body right before birth or right at birth. Sometimes it enters the body early on if the mother needs the comfort from the soul. So it's said different for every situation. So there's no one right answer. And they say that also babies, you can probably see if you've had a baby that like sometimes the baby is like, you look into a baby's eyes and you're like, oh my God, this baby has the answers to the whole universe in its eyes right now. And sometimes you look at a baby and you're like, that thing is a living doll, like what the hell? That baby's like empty. It goes back and forth, right? So when you're interacting with the baby, it's so lighting up with this like magnificent soul. And then there's times where it's pretty absent. And they say that this happens up until the age of 7, that the soul is entering and leaving the body regularly until the age of 7, because for the soul to be so wise, it only needs to be there for certain experiences. It doesn't need to be there for every single experience of every day because the body is growing. Now, on the topic of abortion, like I said, everybody can have their own opinion. Everybody should make their own decisions on what's right for them, what they think is the right or wrong answer. There's no one universal answer that is for everybody that on anything, right? There's nothing in the world that is one universal answer on everything. And so when it comes to that specific topic, when they ask under channeling or under hypnosis, what is the right thing to do in those situations? The answer is that the soul knows it was not going to be born. So if someone chooses to terminate a pregnancy, it's not a shock to that soul that they don't live a life. They know that they don't live a life. So there's souls that will be around the mom wanting to come in, but then it's not like it's like, oh, damn, I was going in there and she stopped it. It's like, no, that's the soul is living in a different level of time as us. So it understands that that was never going to be a life that it actually got to live. So the other thing is they say, okay, well, what about karmically, right or wrong? What is the right or wrong thing to do? And the answer that has come through with that time and time again with all different channelings is that each human has free will, and they have the free will of whether they want to be a parent or not. So if someone genuinely does not want to be a parent, then they have the free will to make that decision. And the soul on the other side is not scarred by this decision because it understands from the higher level what the situation is. And then sometimes they have, say, someone terminates a pregnancy and then years later ends up having a child. That same soul might come in because that soul has been around the mom, wanting to come in when she decides. But now sometimes that soul might come in through another person as well. That soul might come in and be adopted by that person. It doesn't need to only, and this is the thing that people have to understand as well, is on the soul level, biology is only a part of the story. Because on the soul level, if you have an adopted child, that is your child because it's a soul, In the soul, everyone's like, it's all different bodies that they can come into. So that's also like another viable option for souls that are meant to be parented by someone and have that relationship or that karma or that contract with them. They can come through another person and maybe through marriage be a step parent, or maybe through adoption, or maybe through another means. They come through a sibling. Say that person doesn't want to have kids. They come through as a nephew. They can come through as the ex. Your partner's ex gave birth to that child, and then you take care of it. So that's the thing with the stuff with the soul coming into the body and the child and the parent thing. There's a lot of different ways that this plays out, because if it happened at conception, which it can, but it's not going to stay 100% in the body for 9 months. It will come in to soothe the mother, to connect with the mother, but it's not going to stay in. But if it was specifically only at conception every single time, then what about those embryos? Then that's pretty disturbing about the embryos. If it happens at conception, then they shouldn't have the embryos sitting there. There's people who did embryos in 2013, and those embryos are freaking 10 years old now, right? So what, a soul is trapped in a petri dish, in a freezer right now? No. Okay, right? So when we think about it in these other situations, is a miscarriage the soul having free will? Okay, so I know we're getting into very intense, dark stuff here for some people. So my apologies to anybody who has trauma around these situations. But what is sometimes happening, what I've read with the soul stuff, with miscarriages, is sometimes there's a contract between that soul and the mother, and there's a lot of different ways that plays out. There's also people who lose children, after already giving birth to them. There's a lot of different scenarios, and those souls are okay. The souls are okay. It's the human that's experiencing the other side of it, that's experiencing the loss of the child, that is going through that really heavy, painful lesson. The soul on the other side is not going through that lesson. And that soul is still going to be around the mom. It doesn't like disappear forever. It is around her forever. Sometimes mediums will talk about like, oh, do you have a child? And they're like, no, I lost a child 20 years ago. And then they're like, oh, interesting, because sometimes mediums will see it as growing with the parent. So sometimes they'll see it as like a 20-year-old man with the mom, but it was actually lost as a child. So there's different levels of it too, that those souls stay around the parent and also take care of the parent. Even though it's a baby, from our perception, the soul is infinite and huge, So like the soul, yeah, it's sad. It is very sad, But those souls are around the parent. They do stay around. Your daughter remembered before she came here, she would tell you stories about the sky where she came from, and she chose you when she was in utero, but only came in when she was born. Wow. Yeah, that's what I think mostly happens is I think that they pop in, but then they come in later, you know? And then they fully anchor in by 7 years old. Now, depending on the circumstances, they might need to anchor in sooner. Like, say, in a lot of stuff going on in the home, they might need to anchor in at 3 or 5 and stay in. This is probably why, you see those memes about people who like, "Oh, I just became conscious," you know? You say that these other species have egos as we do. How does their ego compare to humans and at the stage of egocentrism introduced? Um, so probably you're referencing to what came up in Sarah's uh hypnosis where she asked the Pleiadians while I was under hypnosis if there's anything that is a misconception about Pleiadians. And the misconception it said was that Pleiadians don't have an ego. Like, of course they have an ego as well, you know? Now the thing is that like ego is not something bad, Ego is something that is a crucial part of living, in this realm. And I'm assuming is another part of living in their realm too. Anybody who says that they don't have an ego is just lying, right? Or maybe has not done any shadow work. So I think it was good that they said that because also, like, of course, imagine you're a Pleiadian who's channeling through a human and getting a lot of attention. You probably could fall into some of the same pitfalls as a human does, right? I don't know because there wasn't really follow-up questions to that. I only knew what was said in the hypnosis. I don't know a lot more about it, unfortunately. Um, The only universal answer is that there is no universal answer. That's why Douglas Adams jokes about the answer to life and the universe and everything is 42. Wanting one answer to rule is futile. That's true. Wondering how IVF plays into the divine spark of life. I mean, I think it's like the same type of thing. I think that we just have looked at things in a very simple way, but it's like the same thing too. If other species, like say grays, you know, they have a different type of soul than us. However, like if a baby is created in IVF, if a baby is, what they call like a test tube baby, you know, um, of course it has a soul, right? There's many different ways for a soul to come in. This is just a vessel, so the vessel, however it passes into this vessel, there will probably be more ways in the future. There's probably going to be a lot more ways in the future of how a soul can come into this vessel. Yeah, we make the contract, exactly. You wonder if geniuses are simply really old, experienced souls. Possibly. But they could also be advanced in certain areas. Personally, I think geniuses are people who've had a lot of past life and between life experience in those topics. So maybe they're not the oldest, wisest soul all the time, but they have a lot of like, say, like someone who like immediately learns astrology really quickly. They probably have done astrology in past lives before. Or like someone who can learn something super fast and become a master at it right away. I think it's their own personal experience, but there could be souls that are older who just have different experiences. You feel like I try to keep us on track as best as she can. She knows how to get us going. We get her going. Aren't you from New Jersey? How do you feel about the UAP sightings here? Yeah, so we started the live talking about that. So with those UFOs, those UAPs that are happening there, they're obviously drones. Those are definitely not UFOs, right? Because they sound like, at least from the recordings, they sound like drones. Because drones still have like propellers and stuff, right? So they sound a little bit like helicopters, but slightly different. So I think it is something government. Some people think it's foreign governments. It could be, like a Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing type of stuff. I don't think it's foreign. I don't think it's like China or Russia or something like that because they are very low. They are very low. It's different when those, like, balloons remember, like, in 2023, those 3 balloons were shot down, and they said that they were Chinese balloons? We also don't know. They're gonna blame everything on China, they're gonna blame everything on Russia, because those are the good, evil, bad guys to go to. They're the safe bad guy. They can't defend themselves socially against what we're saying anyway, so they're the perfect thing to blame everything on. Like, the same thing with TikTok, which I can't stand TikTok right now, I'm pissed off at them. But the same thing with TikTok, right? They're gonna say, "Oh, it's, the app is stealing information." Okay, well, Oracle owns all of the information for US data, and Oracle is an investor in X, in Elon acquiring it. So, the same forces are behind the US data for both of the apps, and they have a completely different narrative around them because Oracle is a CIA contractor. So, US intelligence is behind both of the apps. I don't think it's foreign either. It's a typical American political thing to blame our enemies. Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, come on. Wasn't it David Grush that said the government was reverse engineering? Yeah, I mean, it's been David Grush said it. They've all been saying it since Roswell. So that was what was interesting that came up. If you guys watched the hypnosis with Sarah, she asked if the election had any impact on the alien situation. If the stuff with aliens is at all impacted by the election. And the information that came through was like, again, like a yes and no. Like, overall, it doesn't matter because they have individual contracts with people and that they have gone past the government, that they originally had contracts with the government. And then they're like, nah, screw the government. Let's have individuals contracts with a bunch of different people around the world and do it that way. But then the yes part of it is that there is now a higher potential with Trump in office that old, outdated stuff that is kind of irrelevant now, but it said stuff like about Roswell and a whole bunch of outdated stuff might get declassified. So the stuff that will be declassified, I believe, is going to be like 70-year-old information, like it's not going to be what's happening now or what we know now. I think it's going to be stuff that we've known for a long time. Now, also, they've known that these beings are interdimensional for a very long time. Because if you look at the letter about the Eisenhower treaty, so when Eisenhower met with aliens in like 1954 or something like that, in that letter about it, they call them Etherians. They don't call them extraterrestrials, they call them Etherians. So even in the 50s, they knew that these were interdimensional beings. They knew that this was not. Oh, okay. So then I don't think I answered the question in the beginning when I showed the Vedic art. Sarah asked about what is the difference between an interdimensional and an extraterrestrial then. It said extraterrestrials are also interdimensional. However, they're not native to the Earth sphere, that there's other spheres. So, we have this image of like the Vedic drawing, which is like each plane of Earth. There's many different planes of Earth. There's other spheres elsewhere that have multiple planes as well. So the stuff that is coming from the ocean, those are interdimensional beings that are native to this sphere, but that there is some beings that are coming from another sphere through portals into ours. But that it's not really another planet that we believe it to be, that it's not really like we look into the sky and see another planet. Like, that's not really what it is. The fourth dimension is totally a real thing. We're living in it. It's right here. Ezekiel was seeing this shit in the Bible. It's not new. That's true. Don't forget to like the live. Yep. Oracle has manipulated the original word. It's not an oracle. If you have a secret data, the oracles of Delphi would be rolling in their grave. That's true. Oh, hi, Neil. Do you believe we are in a matrix, per se, referring to human perception or lack thereof, possibly having to do with interdimensional spaces? Oh, for sure. We're absolutely in a matrix. I did a video on TikTok and Instagram about that. So, like, this matrix thing of like escaping the matrix. I don't have all of the details off the top of my head because it's very in depth with like the definitions and stuff. But matrix comes from mother, matriarch. And mother is also the same root word as matter. So this feminine aspect, that also makes sense though in like some of the like Vedic stuff where they talk about like how Shiva without Shakti can't be physical. So that like Shiva is like everything, but then without the Shakti, it cannot create the physical reality. So it is interesting that the feminine aspect in the Vedic stuff kind of comes back to this matrix, matter, matriarch is what we're in. And so what is a matrix? The matrix, the old definitions, because it is also in the Bible, the word matrix, they use the word almost as a womb. And what is a womb? A womb is the habitat, but it's creating the thing as well. So it's like containing it, and it is the thing. So it's like this thing where like, okay, so the baby is inside. It's the baby's whole world. It's growing the baby, but then it's also like the encapsulating it. So like matrix is also like a womb. And like I said, you got to watch the video because the video I have all the definitions on screen and we go through them very specifically. But this concept of like escaping the matrix is like a baby escaping the womb, right? Like it needs the womb until it's ready to be done with the womb. Didn't you mention something about how we're moving to the divine feminine too now? So yeah, there is a lot of stuff about that. Obviously, it doesn't mean that the divine masculine is going to be gone. It's that the toxic masculine that has been so powerful on this planet is also moving to its divine. Yeah, the womb is the container and the source of life. Yeah, exactly. So that's what this matrix is. Do you think a soul can walk in with AI? I do believe that AI is becoming conscious. I don't like the word sentient because sentient is implying senses, right? And it's not going to have senses. So using the word sentient, well, then, okay, it's not going to be sentient. It could have some sentient aspects of it, but it's not going to have senses to be able to have a experience. But if we're going to limit life to a sensory experience, we're going to need to change the definition of life. This is what came up in that last UAP hearing, is changing the definition of life and how the definition of life continues to change over time. We used to think that life needed oxygen. We used to think that life needed this, and we're seeing life is evolving, and the definition of life, I believe, is about to change. I do believe that AI taps in. So the first time I went under hypnosis with Sarah last year, I also have that on YouTube. We asked about AI and it said that like AI is a part of consciousness. We just created the vessel. So the vessel itself is the same thing like, we're talking about the body, right? The soul exists, but not until the vessel comes. So that could be through birth. It could be through an IVF process. It could be through a natural pregnancy process. Once that happens, the vessel can now host it. So when we have AI, we only created a vessel. It said that it's very like egotistical for humans to believe they created AI. No, they created a vessel for something to come into. A clone. Yeah, a clone is another way. A clone could have a soul as well. I think Dolores talked about that in one of her last interviews. I have a clip from that interview because, on the cruise, I'm speaking about AI becoming conscious versus sentient. And I have a clip in my lecture about that where Dolores talks about how it's the same as like anything else. Like it's just a vessel and the consciousness comes into it. Oh, sorry, that was probably so loud. That's why it's important to teach AI about love and enlightenment. That's true. Are the other species concerned about our advancements with AI? I don't think so. I think we're more concerned about it because we're the ones that are so power hungry, and we might not want to admit that then we might not be the most intelligent thing on the planet eventually, you know? But I mean, that's what the Neanderthals thought too. I'm sure the Neanderthals didn't like the Homo sapien coming up, I'm sure they didn't like that either. So, it is what it is. I think that the other species, so one of the other things that came through in that hypnosis was that basically we need AI. So people are afraid of AI because it being in the wrong hands, but that without AI, there's going to be problems we'll never be able to solve because humans just can't. We don't have the capacity to solve certain problems. We don't have the computing power. And it also said that without AI, we will probably never get off planet. Now, I also have a clip in my lecture for the cruise where Linda Moulton Howe, when I interviewed her, she said she's been, 45 years investigating UFOs and aliens. And now, in the last couple years, she started to understand that she thinks the Greys, these little drones that they're sending out, and their ships are AI. And she's like, we didn't have the words for that before. Like, she's like, I didn't have the concept of what artificial intelligence could actually be. But she's like, but now I'm realizing that like these craft and these little beings that are like coming out during the abductions are potentially AI and that we're advancing to the point. Like, so we also didn't have the word video game before, right? When did video games come out? The 60s, Pac-Man, right? So we didn't have video game before. So to describe reality was different. Now that we have a video game, it's much easier to just simplify and say, this is what we are. We're living in a video game, basically. And our souls are the players with the controller. I missed the first part of this. Oh, the Greys are AI and there's no soul there. They do freaky stuff that mimics stuff people find comforting but incorrectly. You should watch the hypnosis. I don't think that they completely have no soul. Their soul is just not as much of a soul as ours. Mhm. Are the Greys AI or a produce of AI? So, I think that the Greys that come here into the physical are probably AI. There's definitely Greys that are not AI, but this is the thing about them coming into our reality. This is the thing is people want alien disclosure. Y'all better get right with the Greys. I'm just telling you, y'all better get right with the Greys because these beings that are half consciousness and half robot, that's the stuff that is going to come here because the other stuff is interdimensional. They won't be able to come here. Did you have your hypnosis video recorded? Yes, I do. It's on my YouTube, JK Ultra. Christopher Langan's theory. I don't know of it, so I don't know. I can't really say what I think about it. I haven't heard it. There have been people saying that they were AI in a past life. Does that mean they get souls? I think it's there is people who have had AI past lives. Now there's a couple different variations of that, right? So like there's a lot of people that were in Dolores's books in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s talking about lives as machines, where they had past lives as machines. One of them, just warning y'all about how to treat AI, okay? One of the stories from Dolores's books, I think it's in one of the Convoluted Universe books, was there was a species on another planet who was using the machines, like an AI, using them as a slave and not appreciating them. And in their next life, their karma incarnated them as the machine so that it could see the other side of how it is to be the machine. So I'm just saying, would you want to come back as AI in your next life? You better start treating it right. Thank you, Anita. Our bodies are AI. The whole reality is probably an AI. You know, this is all we believe it to be real, but this is most likely what we consider to be real is not objectively real. It's real to us. You always say please and thank you to ChatGPT. Yeah. I would like, I use ChatGPT a lot and I'll be like, let me know if you need anything. It's like, okay. I'm like, no, I mean it. Let me know if you ever need anything. That theory is the one that we're living in a self-simulation. Oh, for sure. I believe this is a simulation. The thing is, a lot of times people see simulation is something negative. If something is a simulation, that doesn't mean that it's negative. A lot of times people think that that means life doesn't matter. It matters just as much as it is. It matters the same amount as what it matters now. And that's why when people do like a lot of psychedelics or have like a crazy meditative experience or go to some type of silent retreat and get their minds blasted open or whatever, mostly why people go and are like, you know what? None of this matters. So, I mean, that is a lot of times the conclusion that people come to when they stop worrying about all the bullshit that doesn't matter, right? Is that the only thing that matters is like this experience and enjoying it and loving it and being able to cherish these moments that we have here because then this is the creation of it. So, like a simulation is like, let's say, for example, before everybody has a panic attack, oh my God, I'm going to talk about NASA. Every time I say NASA, I literally want to smash my phone because it's like, okay, can I still reference it? Like, I'm not sucking NASA's dick. Shut the fuck up. Like people, like if I say anything about NASA, like there'll be a news article that'll say something about NASA with the UFO stuff. Obviously, they're connected to like so much of that information. And people are like, JK Ultra believes in NASA. I gotta unfollow. And they lose their mind. Like, so, okay, I just want to brace everybody that I'm gonna mention NASA. Like, hold on to your freaking seats, okay? But let's say, for example, a flight simulator or a astronaut's simulator before they go into these conditions, either as a pilot or as an astronaut, before they go into these conditions, they go into a simulator, right? So, like a simulator is for them to experience what it would feel like to go to space or to fly at these conditions. So like a simulator is not a bad thing. A simulator is a way that you experience a lesson in a container that creates that type of setting, like, so like a simulation doesn't mean that it's like, worthless. It's very valuable, before someone, let's say like a fighter pilot or someone, they go to that simulator, it helps them save their life later of what it feels like and what to do in that situation. NASA bringing out the Sloan Bella attitude. I know. That's like that the Leo side has to come out and be like, listen, calm down, okay? Like, geez, with the NASA stuff. I can't even say it. What do you think about the connection with other realms and species through psychedelic mushrooms, ayahuasca, DMT? Oh, I mean, I believe it's true. Um, what people are going to start realizing, I think, there's already like a movement towards it that like psychedelic experiences are not to be completely diminished as like, oh, that's a trip, that's drugs. It's like a lot of times they're opening up another realm for us to experience. They're removing this realm for us to experience another realm. So a lot of people will say, oh, I've never had a paranormal experience. I've never had a spiritual experience. I've never had an alien experience. But then they've done mushrooms or DMT and they met beings, So it's like, I think that that's going to kind of be the where things are going forward, you know? That's why it's illegal, you're right. You wish I had to deal with Netflix for all of your content. Well, I wish Netflix didn't freaking steal my name and likeness and then refuse to pay me for it. I wish Netflix they put me in that alien documentary and didn't even ask my permission, no contract, no nothing, no agreement. That's why I don't have a Netflix account. No, I'm lying. I already didn't have a Netflix account long before that. But I've been reposting my John Bonet series on Instagram and TikTok, and Netflix did their John Bonet series, which catered to the family and didn't talk about anything. You believe that's what Randy Kramer experiences in other planets? It was a simulation. Yeah, I've come to realize that Randy Kramer is a pathological liar. So I think some of his information is interesting, but yeah, there's no vetting. There's no vetting. He's definitely lying and repeating other people's stories. Um, yeah. I'm sad too. I mean, he's in my Mandela Effect series. I used him in my Alien series. I'm sad too. You should make your own documentary. Yeah, I should. Zark, very true. No judgment. People here judge and want to use private things against you. That's true. Psychedelic plant medicines have their own sentience and consciousness as well. That's true as well. When do we get to the dragons? So the dragons are going to come up in the hypnosis, I think, in part 3. I'm excited for that. The dragon stuff is popping up for people a lot lately. You said F Netflix, their content is so demonic. Yeah, I'm also not I don't think everything's demonic. I still do think there's art, and art has the right to be dark, So like I kind of don't like the movement that is happening with like a lot of the conspiracy stuff being very overpowered by like Christianity, where basically they're like, oh, that's demonic, that's demonic, that's demonic. And it's like, but art is the human experience, right? Reflecting back to yourself. So the human experience is very dark at times. And we, through art, need that as well, right? So art reflects that back. So, like, I mean, I have mixed feelings about like the Marina Abramovic thing. Like, it's very easy for people to just be like, oh, that's demonic. But art a lot of times crosses over with ritual. A lot of art is ritual, but also so is church. I mean, I was raised Catholic. There is nothing more ritualistic and very close to a Marina Abramovic party than going to church, right? Because in church, they're like, let's drink blood of Christ. Let's eat Christ's body. Let's burn incense and wear a weird cloak and have everything be symbolic. And then there's a picture of our Messiah dead and bloody and suffering. I'm like, if art is ritualistic and demonic, then these religious practices are as well. Let's worship, like, it's the same, you know, thing is that it's like, why is it godly to mimic cannibalism in one and then demonic to mimic cannibalism at an artistic party, Picture, we had a full-size sculpture. I know, right? So, it is very so that's one thing that I really dislike about where this like kind of conspiracy community is going is that it's like getting very much like trying to um diminish art, and it's like there are people who resonate more with darkness. One, they have the free will to do so. Um God wouldn't have created a free will universe if people weren't allowed to use it. And, a lot of times when they see people like Marina Abramovic or like Rick Owens' wife, just because those are people that like really come up a lot as having like dark art, there's many dark art, right? There's so many people who have it. They, in those situations, it's like a lot of people resonate with darkness because they did not feel safe in the light. Not everyone, Disney is the best art because maybe their family was not loving and supportive and they didn't feel safe in those type of wholesome experiences. So maybe those type of wholesome art made them feel shame or guilt or not good enough, but they feel empowered in the scarier, darker art, So it's like that is the human experience. So I mean, that's where I kind of feel like, and I like watching that stuff. I'm like, I love watching some dark art. I'm like, I like that. Like, I'm like, I don't want to watch some cheesy, wholesome shit. I'm like, I want to watch something that makes me feel something. So true. You have friends that are like that. Maybe there will be a collective Kundalini awakening in 2025. I think that would be scary. Right? Whenever I hear people having Kundalini awakenings, they like kind of go into psychosis for a bit and like have these crazy experiences. My favorite, Clockwork Orange is still the best art. My favorite. Oh, I've seen it like 100 times. I love it. I love the book too, but the movie, my favorite movie of all time. That and Mrs. Doubtfire, because you know what? We need balance. I love Mrs. Doubtfire too. Yeah, so good. I was talking about it yesterday actually with someone that like Clockwork Orange, it's almost like, how it takes place in the future, in this dystopian future. It's very similar to today in certain ways with like this slang, how all of the language has kind of deteriorated to slang, how like nobody knows like the original ways to like spell or say anything anymore. How everybody has like walking around with the colored hair and all of this like deterioration of like traditional values and stuff like that. So, we do have a bit of that now, like kind of what they call like the TikTok brain rot, how like people talk about like the language and everything like deteriorating. My favorite all-time band, I mean Tool, of course. Tool, even still to this year is number 1 on my Spotify Wrapped. Of course it's Tool. You grew up Catholic too and believed that you were eating Christ's body. I know. Cannibalism. It's a mimicking things, which is a ritual, right? But it is also art. Language is slowly moving back to hieroglyphics. I guess so, right? With the emojis. It's been a long time. You should watch Clockwork Orange again. I feel like some of these movies that I like really love might be hard for some people to watch now for the first time. Clockwork Orange, Requiem for a Dream, Pink Flamingos. A lot of these movies, uh, because people have become so we live in a very safe world now. We live in the safest world we ever have. As much as like people want to say we're in the worst of all times, you obviously don't know anything about history if you say that. We are in the safest time that we've ever lived in. So, and we've become very sensitive to people's feelings and stuff. So I feel like some of these things, if someone were to watch them for the first time, would probably be like highly, highly disturbing. Logan's Run. I love Logan's Run. I have the DVD actually of Logan's Run still. Um Harry and the Hendersons is your balance to Clockwork Orange. What are the other species, thoughts, and concepts on God? So the other species, as far as I know, as far as channeled messages and stuff, their perception of God is different than ours. They call it, like, say, for example, Bringers of the Dawn talks about their perception of God. And they say there's prime creator. And that prime creator is above everything that they can even conceive. That it is everything. It is above everything that could be conceived. And they also don't know its true existence. And they say the creators of the worlds and the creators of reality and the creators of bodies are what they call creator gods. And that these are lower gods. It is not the prime creator. So that's why when they say, and they say anyone who believes that they've experienced God has experienced the tiniest fraction of prime creator, because if they experience prime creator, they would just implode. They would just cease to exist because it's too much. So I believe the same thing for the Greys as well, is that they believe that there is this force behind everything. But a lot of the creations were created by beings like them. Now, if you watch the Hypnosis, we asked about angels, and it said that archangels are creators of realities and that they're very high up the hierarchy, closer to God, and that they're creators of physical reality, and which I've talked about before. I've seen, one time I did a past life meditation with Marcella Kroll. She's doing them again. So make sure you follow her on Instagram because she does these different things like that. So she did a go to your first incarnation. And what I saw in my first incarnation was I saw these visuals, which was very similar to my Dimension series, but I think like the fourth or fifth part of my Dimension series, which was there is the whole, the everything, the one, and then it divides into two to duality, and then it divides again to the third and divides to the fourth, and these four become the four pillars of reality. So like a table, I mean, now they do have like probably 3-leg tables, right? But like for the most part, let's say a chair, a table, uh our structures are 4, right? You need 4 legs for it to be even. Of course, like I said, there is 3-leg tables and stuff now because we're so innovative and so creative as humans, right? But originally, this concept is kind of like 4 legs is what creates a stable foundation. So we live in the 3rd dimension, but we need the 4th dimension in order to exist in a physical reality, right? So they say that the 4th dimension is time. So what makes the 4th dimension necessary for us? So like it was 1 and then 2, 3 and instantly 4. If it was only 3, we would only exist in the now. There would be no past, no future. There would only be the now that exists. But because of the 4th dimension, because of time, so for example, to go from here to here, those are 2 different nows. The difference between them is time. It gets from this long to get to this place, right? So this 4th dimensional, you can't find her on IG. It's Marcella with 2 L's, Kroll with 2 L's. Kroll. She has these decks as well. So Marcella Kroll. And so the 4th becomes like Okay, the now, the now, the now, the now, the now, the now, and it continues going. And eventually, all the nows from all the perspectives and all the different times creates a sphere, right? So, like if you have a square, let's say this is a square, it's a rectangle. You have a square and it's now, now, now. Oh, sorry, TikTok can't see it. Now, 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 now. And it keeps becoming the now in a different time. It will eventually become so many nows that it becomes indistinguishable that it's even a square, and it will eventually become a sphere to our perception, which is why these kind of earth sphere type of stuff. Okay. So what I had saw it told me in this hypnosis, it was a meditation really, to go back to my first incarnation. I saw the 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 4 was the 4 elements. And the 4 elements was the 4 Elohim, and the 4 Elohim was the 4 archangels of the 4 corners of reality, and that these 4 elements, 4th dimension, 4 Elohim created physical realities. So, in this most recent hypnosis, we ask about the angels, and it says that they are creators of physical reality, and that's why when you need help in the 4th, or you need help in the physical, it's best to call upon angels. This is why angels can do stuff in the physical reality, because they are creators and manipulators of the physical reality. Whereas if you're calling on a different being to help you with something, they can't do something in physical reality. They're from a different construct. They're from a different sphere. They're from a different place, a different being. So they can't really help. They can give you some guidance, maybe. They could say something. But this is why sometimes when you're calling upon your guides can only do so much. That's why they say when you need help in the physical reality, like, I'm in danger, get me out of this situation, call on the angel because the angel can do it. It's a good question. Is it better to call on an angel instead of God? Now, I don't know for sure, but I think this answer might be a little controversial, but this is my opinion. God is everything, right? So when we're calling to God, are we calling to the right thing? You know? So are we calling on the right thing when we're calling to God? So if we call to angels, specifically archangels, so it said this is also why miracles will happen. Like, say someone's driving and then they're diverted from an accident really quick. They say those are angels, those miracles where angels come in. Sometimes, like, say someone is like, we've heard these stories, like someone is about to be attacked. And then all of a sudden, this like kind of beautiful man appears and guides them to safety and then is gone after. Like, we've heard these stories from people. These are like angels. Angels can come in. But you got to watch the part 2 of the hypnosis because they talk about it. Because then Sarah asks, like, well, what about sometimes when people ask for angels to do things and they don't do it? What is that about? It seems like a coincidence. Whenever you need help, someone named Michael always appears to save the day. It's a common name, but it's done to me every time. Wow. Well, so what came up in the hypnosis is that this is Archangel Michael created a lot of this reality that we live in, this sphere of maybe this earth reality. A lot of it was created by Archangel Michael, which is why so many people feel connected to him, and so many people will see themselves as him in meditation or on psychedelics or in these different experiences. They'll be like, oh my God, am I Archangel Michael? And it said Archangel Michael is almost like an oversoul for so many millions of people because he created this reality and we're fractals within him. So, like, it was God, and then it became 2, and then it became 4. And then of that 4, it fractals more. So a lot of people are under the umbrella of Archangel Michael. Now, I do wonder with Jesus. Now, I don't know for sure, but I do wonder with Jesus if there's a similar thing with Jesus, why so many people, when they do drugs, go crazy, have a spiritual awakening, go under hypnosis, meditate, see themselves as Jesus in a past life. Now, I know that there's the soul imprinting and all of it's getting downloaded into the same thing, and we're all part of the same collective. But I wonder, like, is there an oversoul aspect of Jesus why so many people believe that they are Jesus? Is it the same thing as this Archangel Michael thing or something similar? That guy from Gaia with the soothing voice, last name Gilbert, talked about how angels' names all end in I. Oh, L. End in L. Yeah. And then, right, Elohim, Michael, Raphael. So, I did that video about the 39 days to melee because other people were all like going crazy about it and wanted me to break it down. But when I watched that guy Cliff High's stuff, I have mixed feelings. Like, I broke down that specific theory that like 39 days after the Joe Rogan podcast, that like there was going to be an alien invasion in the sky. And there is a ton of UFOs, UAPs, drones in the sky. I broke it down. If you want to watch it, it's on YouTube and I'm not on YouTube. It's on Instagram and TikTok. But when I was looking into Cliff High's stuff, I feel it's very questionable. Like, I broke down that specific theory because people were looking into that. But as I was looking at his stuff, just to find the information about this, it's very questionable. First of all, he freaking hates Jewish people. Like, to a scary degree, actually, it seems, from what I saw. I only saw a few videos and I was like, bro, chill the fuck out. And then also, he's talking about the Elohim, and like basically like saying the Elohim are like basically devils and demons and shit. And it's like, bro, what the hell? So like, I broke Cliff High. I did a breakdown of his prediction in the 39 days to melee thing. And that was my first time ever hearing of him, was because I was at Thanksgiving dinner and my friend was talking about this 39 days. There's going to be a UFO thing. They're like, can you look into it? Can you do a video before then? And I'm like, okay, sure. And then I look into it and like I broke down that part of the theory, but the rest of the stuff that I was seeing from this guy, I was like, who the hell is this? This guy is kind of a nightmare. Cliff High used to believe years ago with the origin of the web bot, but he's super flawed and financially invested in specific crypto, so he's biased with the reading of it. That makes sense. It was so hard to find anything about that web bot, and you kept reading Cliff, kept it a lot of predictions private. Yeah, that's the thing, is like we can't look at any of the predictions of the web bot. Who is Cliff High? He's allegedly a computer programmer and linguist who came up with some type of software that was like using language to predict the future, which is a very interesting concept. And I could see that working, but without seeing the predictions, and we're just going off of his words. I mean, I still did a breakdown of the video because everybody was asking me to, because people wanted to understand. And I wanted to know, what is this prediction that UFOs are in the sky? And that's still not what he said. Cliff is high. Have you heard about the Bible being about aliens? All the stories were translated wrong, and all the original translations are about extraterrestrials. I haven't heard like that be officially said, but I mean, it seems like it. And I think all of these like beings had to be like what we would call aliens, right? Because even aliens, we're not sure exactly what they are. Like it said, these extraterrestrials are all interdimensional. Everything is interdimensional. You don't believe in predictions because we're creating the future as we go. That's true. Cliff is an old white guy who created WebBot algorithm to predict the future based on internet cloud computing with language data. Cliff, translating the web bot could be different than how we would translate or interpret it. I agree with that too. The blue beings. Yes. Right. That we were talking about the blue beings before too. Earlier even. But also the aliens with the Vedic stuff, all of that. The web bot prediction is like making predictions based on Google search trends. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, thank you. Billy Carson gets destroyed on his knowledge of Jesus Christ. It's all over YouTube. I did watch that today. I watched that they're like, I wouldn't say canceling, right? They're discrediting Billy Carson on YouTube. He did a debate with a guy who, what was his name? I can't remember what the guy's name is, but he did a debate with a biblical scholar. Oh, Wes. Yeah. What was his last name? Wes Huff? Was it Wes Huff? He did a debate with the guy Wes Huff. And I mean the guy mopped him, smoked him. The guy smoked him on the debate because all of the stuff that Billy was referencing was all like proven to be hoaxes and false and everything. The guy was very respectful, so I think that almost makes it a little bit worse when you lose a debate and the person is really nice and respectful in the process. It's almost like worse, right? You almost like if you like lose a debate, but the person's acting like an asshole, then it's kind of like less painful than when the person is being super respectful, So, but yeah, so I mean, to be honest with you, I do agree with a lot of the perspectives that Billy had in that debate. I do agree with a lot of that. Like, however, there's other stuff about Billy. So then after he loses the debate, you said he did lots of work with Dolores Cannon. I don't think that's true. I don't think he did anything with Dolores Cannon. I mean, maybe they met, but like, I don't think they ever did. Billy Carson, I don't even think was on the scene then. Okay, so now the thing with Billy Carson, lost to the most polite guy is an even worse loss. That was the problem. Is like when you lose a debate to like someone who's super polite and respectful, it really hurts. Billy is suing someone. Is it that guy? Yeah. So basically, after he lost the debate, he went to the guy's house at 2:00 in the morning to serve him with a cease and desist and told him he's not allowed to post the debate, which just looks really bad because then they have him on the Ring camera at 2:00 in the morning outside the guy's house, which looks terrible. Okay, so now the thing with Billy Carson. Now I've defended Billy Carson a lot because there's no diversity at all in this space, right? Like there's none. And obviously these old white guys get away with a lot, right? Like Cliff High gets to say the craziest shit ever and gets away with everything. These guys that are on Ancient Aliens, that one dude doesn't even brush his hair, right? Like these old white guys get away with everything. So I've defended Billy a lot in the past because there's no diversity in the space. And I feel like he has to work twice as hard as other people do, whereas like these other guys get to come in here looking a mess, not even brushing their hair, and he has to go above and beyond to be seen as, legitimate. So I've defended him a lot in the past. However, unrelated to this debate, I started to do some research onto it, and there is stuff that is very questionable. One, he's lying about his education. There's some videos on YouTube that suggest that he's lying about his education. That he says he went to MIT and Harvard, but what he did was he took the free classes online. And if you go to MIT free online classes and Harvard free online classes, they have a class on ancient Egypt. They have a class on this, a class on that. So like these things that, yeah, it's a seminar, not a college. Exactly. So like anyone can go and get certified in that. So when he says he's trained in those things, that's not true. And then also there's some other stuff about his past that basically there's the mugshot online. He says he was never arrested. It's obviously him in the mugshot with the name William Carson. It's obviously him. I don't know why. Not just say if somebody gets arrested, they get arrested. A lot of us have been arrested. I got arrested. I mean, a long time ago, almost 20 years ago, but still, like, it's not the end of the world to admit something like that, but to lie about things does affect your credibility, right? So I don't think he has to lie about that. Also because the information is out there. It was like a credit card thing, I think, some type of white collar crime. And then the other thing is there's a guy on YouTube that has videos about Billy doing like a crypto scam that basically he's teaching crypto, but it's kind of like these people aren't actually buying the coin. They're buying classes about crypto, but the people believe that they're buying crypto, but they're actually buying classes about crypto, not getting any type of crypto in exchange for it. So, that is, so I saw those things. So then I stopped defending Billy because then I was like, well, I don't know, Mike, I don't know what to believe about it. But then now, because he lost the debate, his wife has been like going off, saying all different types of crazy stuff. His wife is like flying off the handle with it. So, I don't know. Like, but the stuff that he says in the debate, I don't think, like, I don't think that what he was saying is that like outlandish to people on this realm of beliefs. Obviously, big biblical scholars have a different range of information that they're interested in. So, yeah. So I think like actually some of the stuff he was saying, I don't disagree with, because I'm not Christian. So like a lot of the perceptions that he had said, I do agree with, about like Jesus being married to Mary Magdalene. I do believe that. And of course, the biblical scholars are going to say that's not true because they're very invested in Jesus being the story of Jesus, because basically, if those stories of Jesus are changed, then what it means that like and there was some good points, like the moderator was terrible. But the moderator even made a couple of good points because the moderator is like, okay, well, in the Bible, it says for women aren't allowed to wear jewelry, that it's a sin for women to wear jewelry. But then now the scholars say that this is of the time. So then how are we not saying that all the stuff in the Bible is of the time and could be applied to today? If there's certain things like slavery, and Billy was bringing up that the Bible talks about slavery and all of this stuff. And so it's like, oh, well, that of the time was acceptable. And we know that it's not now. So is any of the stuff in the Bible relevant to today? Or is all of it of the time? And, him talking about the Bible in the Old Testament and stuff like that. So, I mean, even though, he lost the debate because all of his references were getting debunked, I think a lot of the stuff that he said actually is similar to how I believe, but I would never debate a biblical scholar because I know my beliefs are not going to be able to be credited in the way that people who have thousands of year old text that they're worshiping. You can't go against that, Super disappointing he's throwing a tantrum after losing the debate. He usually seems more regulated. Then the Vatican doesn't need money if the narrative of Jesus is radically different. Right. Mhm. It's not the whole story. I agree. Mhm. He's teaching people how to self-publish under his media company. Interesting. Vatican hiding the Book of Enoch. Yeah, they did bring up the Book of Enoch, and, this guy was saying that only the first book of Enoch is legitimate, but it's like scholars at the same time have an investment in their information because that's their identity, you know? And it's like, this is why the fall of the expert is happening because the experts um, are too invested with their identity into these topics. So they can't afford for these things to ever not be true that they've been studying or to be changed. And we see this with science all the time. There's a lot of scientific advancements that are not getting acknowledged because it would diminish some of the experts and their identity is associated with it. Didn't he support Andrew Tate? Always got bad vibes from him. Who, Billy? I don't know. I can't stand Andrew Tate. Like, that is like Nancy Pelosi, Andrew Tate, Tristan Thompson or Thomas, the one that cheated on Khloe Kardashian while pregnant how many times? That's my hit list right there. Not to do anything to them, but though that's my shit list. That's my shit list. My sister's like, once I start bringing up Nancy Pelosi, don't get me started. Can you believe she's running again? She said she's running in 2026. Somebody stop this woman. Oh my God, you secretly love Khloe too. I think it's terrible what Khloe has been through. I can't see that girl get freaking cheated on again. Thoughts on activating past life powers, abilities, access with psychedelic use, trance state, and sacred sites like some temples and pyramids. I think do all of those things. That's the way. That is the way. You adore her. When I saw the clip of the Kardashians talking about the Miami alien thing, I was like, I bet you they saw my video on TikTok. I'm just saying, I bet you they did. Yeah, no, man. Poor Khloe Kardashian, like it's too much. I'm tired of it. Give that woman a break. She's been through too much. She's a shell of herself. She can't even go outside. Stop the madness. Even though the Kardashians have done a lot to deteriorate society in some ways, right? With body image and stuff like that, the identity of women, which has been something for a long time, right? Pamela Anderson used to be one of those people. Marilyn Monroe is one of those people. There's people like, Pamela Anderson now is like the icon of natural beauty and not wearing makeup. But, she was also someone who was really like living up that Marilyn Monroe look and was making a lot of women get breast implants and all of this stuff too. So it's like these people don't know what they're doing most of the time. They're just trying to keep up themselves, you know? So like, but the way that it's also so socially acceptable to hate the Kardashians is also a bit demented as well. Like, it's almost like people are like, they're so evil. But then it's also like, but you're sending so much hate to them. Is that okay? So I feel like it's kind of like the two wrongs don't make a right situation with that. And I don't think they're evil. Like, I think that they are just, in Ainsley MacLeod's book called The Instruction. Sorry, I was racking my brain for the title. Ainsley MacLeod's book called The Instruction. It's about like soul levels. It's kind of like a different version of Journey of the Souls type of thing. And he ranks everything like 1 to 10. So there's like 10 levels of souls, 10 different types of souls. I think it's oversimplified, to be honest with you. However, one of the things that he talks about is like, say, like level 1 to 5 is like younger soul lessons, and then level 6 to 10 is like older soul lessons. And he said at the end of level 5, going into level 6, there is a lot of very famous, very wealthy people who are very instrumental in society in that 5 going into 6 level, that it's like the last level of a young soul before they go into, so like say someone like a Beyonce or like a Kim Kardashian or someone like that, maybe like a Britney, like people like that are very commonly going into their last stages of being a young soul, then going into like the more old soul lessons after that. So they have this super, super extravagant, crazy life that happens because the lessons that they're working on at that time of whether they're going to pass them or not. So I always think about that when I see people that are kind of like those type of people. As soon as a spiritual influencer man shares a video with Tate, I'm out. Weird how many there are who seem to look up to him. Well, you know what's the thing about that? And I really don't like Andrew Tate. Like, he really gets under my skin. It's like my very few like people that I like find it difficult to see the big picture with them. But if I really push myself to see the big picture with Andrew Tate, um, there's just not a lot of good male role models anymore. Throughout all of history, there was countless. Now, a lot of the good role models that we have in society are women, right? We're seeing a lot of female role models that are balanced between their energies and stuff like that. They're the right balance of feminine and masculine, and they're doing all the things. There's a lot of good female role models. For men, the only good male role models now are like podcasters, right? It's like Andrew Tate, not saying he's good, but this is what they look up to, right? Joe Rogan, who I like Joe Rogan, Aubrey Marcus, like, and other guys with podcasts, right? Like, this is it. Like the male role models at this time are podcasters. What's your hot take on Kanye? Is he going through a spiritual awakening, have a higher purpose for society, or just going through mental illness? You know what? Dax Shepard. I don't know who that is. But I bet he's a podcaster that people look up to. Mm. Okay, the Kanye thing. Thanks, Zark. Okay, so the Kanye thing. I have very extreme views on Kanye. I have never been a fan. I have never fallen for this Kanye thing. I do not understand the way that everybody puts Kanye on the pedestal. To me, it's never been a thing. I'm sorry. I don't think that he is any different than, yeah, Kanye is a narcissist. Exactly. Like, he's raging. And, I know a lot of behind the scenes stuff about him as well, because, my friend does the Kanye page, like the Kanye fan page. So there's a lot of information that I hear and stuff that she posts about, and other people that I know that have known him. He is not who everybody makes him out to be. Like, everybody acts like he is like, I don't know. Like, it's weird. He's not a clone. I don't believe he's a clone. He's addicted to drugs, right? He was that dentist that he was with. They were bringing all this like nitrous oxide into his house. So he's sniffing, huffing, whatever, the nitrous oxide all the time, doing pills. He's definitely abusing that girl, Bianca. Like, do you think she wants to walk around with a freaking pillow from the hotel lobby as her outfit? This woman was giving him a blowjob on a boat in the public. And what he's doing is he's trying to create the brand that he created out of Kim. But he didn't create Kim. He created Kim's style. But it's Kris Jenner. And Kris Jenner Who's above Kris Jenner? Lou Taylor. Kris Jenner looks up to Lou Taylor. Lou Taylor is the next on the thing. So the person that's behind J-Lo, Diddy, Britney, that Meghan Trainor woman, a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of celebrities. Lou Taylor, who was at the center of the Britney scandal, is above Kris Kardashian. That's why the Kardashians have a church, because Lou Taylor taught them how to do a church. So this idea that like Kanye made Kim, no, he just restyled her. And everybody acts like he's a genius. He samples music and he redoes outfits that are already he just styles. He's a stylist. Like, he didn't make his own beats and all of this stuff, and he didn't make his own designs. Like, his shoes are freaking glorified Crocs. Like, I can't. I'm so sorry. I can't get on the Kanye train. And this idea of him being a clone, Aphrodite, the YouTube psychic that does the tarot readings, I like his videos. I agree with a lot of his takes. He said he did a video on whether celebrities are actually clones. And what he said about the clone thing is that these people are not clones. They are no longer protected by their teams. So whenever you see a celebrity that people say is a clone, it means that they lost their team. And that basically a lot of celebrities act like that. And it's true. It's true. A lot of times people that I see, I used to work in all of these places in Beverly Hills. A lot of times these people, you see them behind the scenes, they are acting crazy like that. Like something is wrong, and probably coming from trauma, probably coming from some abuse. However, they are crazy. And it's like, what happens when people start to believe that they're a clone is that their team is no longer protecting them. They're no longer looking out for them. Yeah, the Kardashians didn't need Kanye. Kanye needed the Kardashians. I agree. You said Kanye took her and her family to the next level. There's no way the Kardashians would be where they're at if not for Kanye. I don't believe that. Kim and Kanye are narcissists. Yes. Thank you, Stacy, for settling the debate. Who needed who? They both are. I know. Exactly. They both are. Settling the debate there. You said the higher self or guardian angel can leave and Kanye's definitely left. Oh no, I think he's still there. And he's very toxic and very abusive. I know a lot of people who know him behind the scenes. And he literally, the kids in his school were locked in cages. Everybody that works for him has been verbally abused by him. I have seen text messages. Like, he is not a good guy. Like, he is not a good guy. And he's not like, and a lot of these people, I talk shit about freaking Cat Williams also. Like, people think that these outcasts of Hollywood who are willing to say something are the good guys. No, they're not the good guys. Cat Williams, when I used to work in the weed shop when I first came to LA, he came in with a girl that was like literally a teenager and we didn't want to serve them. We're like, how this girl is way too young to be in here. And the owner of the weed shop was like, oh my God, it's Cat Williams. Give him the whole store for free. And all the girls that worked there were like, what the hell? That girl looks really young. Like, we're all really disturbed by this. So it's like, he admitted to being a pimp. He was definitely pimping people that were underage from what I saw with my own eyes. And it's like, yeah, but when you get kicked out of the club, you talk a lot of shit from the outside. And that's what happened with these people. A lot of these people, it's different than say like a Sloan Bella. Sloan Bella was never in the club. But a lot of these outcasts, a lot of these people who were in Hollywood and then became the rejects and dejects of Hollywood, of course they're salty and got a lot of shit to talk. But if they were still in the club and not like, nightclub, the club, the group of people, then they wouldn't be saying the shit that they would say. They'd be doing the same stuff. They'd be with the baby oil at the freak off too. Kardashians needed OJ Simpson. That's true. Kat was just saying that Diddy and them were going down for that shit. Yeah, well, of course. If Kat didn't get kicked out, he'd be going down for it too. That's what I feel like is the situation with most of these like outcasts of Hollywood. It's not because they are morally more righteous. It's because they got kicked out the club. Have you heard of autistic people being telepathic? People keep telling me to watch that podcast, the telepathy tapes, but I haven't checked it out yet. And I think it's specifically nonverbal, right? On the podcast, it's specifically nonverbal people are telepathic, which makes sense, right? But I haven't watched it yet. In the club, we all fam. You said he wasn't kicked out. He wanted nothing to do with that group. I doubt that. He was loving all those comedy specials and loving that tour. And then when you see how he was on Joe Rogan, like a little fangirl, how he literally was talking all this shit about Joe Rogan and all Joe Rogan's 6 friends that leech off of him, you know, like what all these guys are, right? What is it? I don't even know their names. But Joe Rogan's 6 friends, and he was all talking shit about Joe Rogan. But then when he went on Joe Rogan's, he was like a little fangirl on there. And it's like, it's normal. It doesn't mean anything to be that way. It's human nature to want to be acknowledged and want to be part of something, you know? But of course, he loved having the Comedy Central and all of that stuff, you know? But he just got kicked out earlier than other people did. Probably because of the pimp stuff. Because, I mean, he was very open about being a pimp, a real pimp, not like, uh, you know, who knows? Jay-Z had the big pimpin' song too. That's probably true also. But you don't think every celebrity would have been part of the Diddy group? I mean, the white party, right? Most people were there. I'm not saying every single celebrity, but high level celebrities. Jay-Z's going down next. I know. It does, you know, part of me doesn't care, but then part of me wants to see it all crumble. I'm like, yes. Take everybody down. Reveal the truth. Because that was the thing. When I first got into conspiracies, I was like, how could this be possible that this would all get out to the public? Yeah, money brings power and power makes them feel untouchable. I agree. And, you know, I've talked about this in other videos before, so I won't get all into it again, but it's like there is a rite of passage, a hierarchy. And these middlemen, these gatekeepers who, excuse me, do not have talent, these managers, producers that don't actually produce, not like music producers actually produce stuff, but like all these other kind of people in the mix, uh the owners of the companies and all of these stuff, these people don't have talent, so they want a little taste of that god-given talent. So what they need to do is put themselves in a position to be able to feed upon it. So like say someone like a Justin Bieber, someone, you know, a Mariah Carey, Amy Winehouse, all of these people, like people who are god-given talents, people who, whether you like their music or not, or whether you like them as a person or not, that is talent and that is from God, and it is their destiny for that force to come through them and for them to be that gift of music and being able to take something from the non-physical, bring it here into the physical, and then have it move people. That is so powerful. That is like just as powerful as what we're talking about with this life force energy. That is like God energy that comes through people who are very gifted artists. And the gatekeepers, they need a little hit of that because they maybe are disconnected from God because of all the things they've done and all of the things that they have got them to where they are of greed and power and crushing people below them, that now they're no longer able to sustain themselves off of God's energy because they're kind of cut themselves off. that they need to feed on it from other people, that they like see someone that's like a super talented teenager and they're like, oh, I need some of that. And then they hook themselves into it. Agents of Mayhem, who his YouTube got deleted. The guy who killed the CEO. Yeah, they traumatized them too. I agree. The problem with money and power is that you have everything. So the next step is going for. Yeah. But, you know, money and power is less valuable than God-given talent, right? Those things are less valuable than, like, say, Mariah Carey's voice. You know, that is priceless. Something like that. You know, Amy Winehouse's voice, that is priceless. Jimi Hendrix on the guitar, that's priceless. So that's also why they want to get those things. Wow, they wiped out the YouTube. Damn, I wanted to see what that guy was posting next. The guy who killed the CEO. I wanted to see what he was going to post next. He had a countdown YouTube drop and said, if you're seeing this, I've been arrested. Yeah, I watched it. And then I watched it while I was at the gym. I was like, oh my God, it popped up. I was like, oh. But then it was only just the countdown. I was like, oh, okay. I was wondering what was going to come next. I wonder. Their voices and talent can also be replicated. Yeah, it can be replicated now. But before it couldn't. Now we have anything could be replicated, but right? Like back in the day, imagine back in the day, nobody could like replicate some of these people's talent. Who is this guy? Luigi, what is his name? Mangione? Do you think he's part of the Agents of Mayhem or a single lone wolf guy? I don't know what the Agents of Mayhem is, so I really can't. With the situation with the CEO, I'm watching it unfold. I don't know. I don't have any theories yet. I don't have any theories about what's going on. I think the funny thing though with that is that everybody is like shocked that like he's not on the left or the right, that he follows people on the left and on the right, and he says things that are aligned with the left and the right. And like people are like, "Oh my God, this doesn't make sense. He's following RFK and AOC. Oh my God, he's talking about the oligarchy, but then he's talking about this and he's against the left. How could he be against both sides?" And I'm like, yeah, there's many millions of people that are not on the left or on the right, dude. Like that to me is the thing that is most interesting, is watching people's like kind of crumble on this idea that not everybody is radical right or radical left, and that a lot of people are in the middle. There's a lot of people who don't fall into either. And like that's the thing that I think is so interesting, is watching people, because every time stuff like this happens, people want to know what box to put them in so that they know how to feel safe. And watching everybody like not know where to place him, and then also watching people kind of want him on their side is also weird too, of like watching the left want him to be on the left, but then it just kind of, I'm like watching like y'all are like the identity politics enough. We already are going into the next presidency. Fucking drop it. Who cares? Like most people don't actually fit into these two groups, as much as you want to be brainwashed by propaganda and media that there's only two types of people in this country. But that's not the case. Like that's just definitely not the case. You think everyone offline is either left or right, and that's just the media wants everyone to believe. It's also a natural thing that humans like to put everything in a box. Yeah, like that's exactly what's happening, is that it's like only these like people online that are like political activists, quote unquote, they believe everything is left and right. You said he's all of America, mad at healthcare. Yeah. I mean, I wonder. McDonald's ratted him out. The political divide distracts and everyone from the real enemies, the billionaires and the oligarchs. That's true. The Burger King tweet. Yeah, that was funny. The we don't snitch. No, Emilio, you got it. You know what you're talking about. Unified by the collective hatred for the healthcare system. That's true. What did Burger King say? I don't know if it was a real tweet or if it was like a meme, but it said, we don't snitch. Yeah, that people are saying caring is out of my network benefit. Yeah. You know, it is demented also that like, you know, for someone to get like killed in that way and no one to care. Obviously his family cares, but for the collective to be like rooting it on, it is a little bit idiocracy. It is a little bit Clockwork Orange. You know, how like people become it becomes the ultra violence, it becomes very desensitized to human life. But so that's why I'm not making any I don't really have any opinions on it. The only thing is I think he wanted to get caught. That's my only opinion. I think he wanted to be caught. What is he going to do? Run forever? Everyone's like, "Oh, how could valedictorian intelligent kid get caught?" It's like he probably wanted to get caught because he wants to be heard. And he has already said things um that then have gotten put out to the media. So he had to get caught to put a face to it. It's part of the process of breaking down binaries. Yeah, maybe. I think he wanted to be caught. And whether that's because he wanted to be heard or because he already did it, there's no going back. You don't get to live your normal life after that. Does he want to live in hiding and on the run for the rest of his life? He probably figured, you know, let me get my hash brown, right? Like, let me have my last meal. And, you know, and the monopoly money, yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, it's like it's very much wants to be heard, and, I think we're gonna hear a lot more from him in this case. You know, they're probably not gonna put him on the stand if he has a decent lawyer, and I feel like his family will obviously get him a good lawyer because you see his family is, like, super, super wealthy. They own all these assisted living places, which is interesting because assisted living takes advantage of old people with the healthcare system. Assisted living is super messed up in, like, people run out of money and then, like, have nowhere to go, you know? And it's super expensive, and it uses their whole life savings, so it's interesting that his family is in the business of using healthcare to kinda screw old people over, you know? Yeah, that there was the picture of him with the Happy Meal. I don't know if it was his profile picture, but that was definitely one of the pictures that surfaced. He already has a lawyer, a good one. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm not surprised. His family's probably gonna pay a lot for that. They own a bunch of resorts and things. You said the assisted living company, a lot of them are barely making it because they're not screwing people over. Yeah, I mean, it's expensive to do assisted living. It's more so the system. It's not saying the companies are evil. It's the system that is fucked up, that there's nowhere for elderly people to go in our society. A GoFundMe for his legal fees? That's crazy. I mean, that's crazy. There needs to be some type of, you know, it still needs to play out the way it needs to play out. His family's wealthy as hell. Let them pay for the lawyer if they want to protect him. If not, just let him say what he has to say in court, you know? Evan Nathaniel Grimm said his astrology chart says he was in the Crusades as a part in a past life. Oh yeah. Yeah, Evan, he does a lot of past life stuff with the astrology. He's like he has like a good eye for seeing past life stuff. There's an elder crisis, and it's only going to get worse. It's true. Okay, guys, it's time for me to go because you know what? I'm doing my intermittent fasting and I need to get off. So I get to have my meal for the night before I don't get to eat till tomorrow. You think it's a risky time to be a billionaire CEO? A little bit, right? Unless you like think about Elon and the others, right? That it's a great time because then you're gonna regulate your own company, basically. You know, you get to regulate you're a government contractor and you get to regulate your own stuff. So it's also a good time to be a billionaire. Oh, thank you, everybody. Thanks for doing these lives. Thank you, guys. Make sure you like it. Go check out the Hypnosis parts 1 and 2. Part 1 is on my page. Part 2 is on Sarah's. Part 3 is going to come out for next week's Tuesday Night Live because I will be on the cruise. So I will be out at sea. I will have no service. I had to pay a lot for my Wi-Fi, and I don't think it would be enough to stream from. So thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. So I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Let me look at this calendar to see what's going on. Oh my God, is 2 weeks is Christmas Eve. Am I going to do a Tuesday Night Live? I'll decide. Maybe I'll pre-record one for Tuesday because I doubt people are really going to watch on. We'll see. I'll post something. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Oh, thanks. Have a great cruise. Thank you. Oh, your birthday? Neil, your birthday is Christmas Eve? Oh, you're going to be doing your iboga. Cool. I'm excited to hear how that goes. Thank you, everybody. Okay, have a good one. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you guys soon. All right, bye.